Could the current geopolitical crisis have been averted? How did we get here, and what could be the possible outcomes? Let's dive into the recent past for some answers. Back in October 2022, a chess game of power and politics began to unfold. Russian President Putin, in what he called a military training exercise, positioned his troops on the border of Ukraine. It was a move that not only tested the resolve of Ukraine, but also the commitment of NATO and the United States. The response came from President Biden, who openly declared that Putin was preparing to invade Ukraine. However, he also made it clear that the US would not deploy ground troops. It was a stance that left Ukraine exposed and vulnerable. In essence, it was an open invitation for Putin to make his move. And indeed, he did. On October 24, 2022, Putin unleashed his troops on Ukraine. This was not an isolated act of aggression. It was part of a pattern that has seen Putin invade, torture, and destroy countries. It is a pattern that reveals the psychopathy of a serial killer. Yet despite the clear and present danger, an opportunity was missed. President Biden and NATO could have issued an ultimatum warning Putin to pull back his troops or face severe consequences. But they chose not to. The odds were in their favor. NATO and the United States combined have 5 times the population of Russia and 7 times the amount of military equipment. Putin was aware of this imbalance. It was precisely why he had opposed Ukraine joining NATO. In the absence of a strong response, the green light was effectively given to Putin to invade Ukraine. Another misstep followed when Ukraine's President Zelensky requested military equipment. He made a compelling argument. "Give me the equipment and I'll win the war, and you won't have to deploy any troops." But again, hesitation ruled the day. Biden chose to impose sanctions on Russia, believing it would be a sufficient deterrent. But sanctions are a long-term strategy and often yield little immediate effect. All that was needed was to supply the military equipment up front. Instead, a minimal amount of equipment was provided, just enough to prolong this proxy war between Russia and Ukraine. As we ponder the next steps in this crisis, it's clear that Putin has committed himself to the end. So what's next?